Well, this is a perfect setup, Popey, because you're sitting in a bar as we record this again, which is exactly where you're going to spend your weekend when you pull the option. This is what Pete DeBoer used to do on the final trip of the season to Sault Ste. Marie when he was head coach and GM in Kitchener. There would be a final trip to the Soo, and he would have scouting duties or office duties or something that kept him in Kitchener. Everybody else went to the Soo. That's where you're sending me, and you're going to go to the bar and enjoy outdoor hockey. Nice. Nice.
I know. My life isn't difficult, eh? I have to give up watching hockey and getting paid for it to watch hockey and get paid for it. I don't know if I can really complain, but I would love to go up to the Soo. You and I both talk all the time about how much of a joy it is to go up to that city and how much we love it up there when we're there. The bus ride isn't so great, but when you're there, it's a great spot to be. The hotel right across. You got the water right there. You can walk around. A couple of good coffee shops, a couple of good breweries to go to. The rink is great. The team is great. There's not a lot about that city that you and I don't like besides Lop's cover charge. I'm going to miss the trip up to the Soo. I will say that. And I know that I'm leaving it in capable hands like yourself.
You're going to get to enjoy the outdoor game in Hamilton this weekend. And of course, the Ontario Hockey League is following up with an outdoor game of its own. We talked about this on the podcast before. I'm kind of over the whole outdoor game thing, but I will say, love what Mike Andlauer is doing for the Hamilton Bulldogs and frankly for the city of Hamilton, and absolutely love what the Oshawa Generals have done with their unis for that game. Yowza, they look good.
They look so slick. But we were talking on air the other day, like, has Oshawa done anything that hasn't worked? Like, even when they traded, their captain to Niagara just a couple of years ago, they still beat Niagara in the playoffs. Like, they're one of the premier organizations in this league. We've had how many Generals or Pete's on our podcast in the past talking about that rivalry. As far as my money, and I'm sure a lot of people's money, Oshawa's in the top 3 or top 2 maybe franchises in the Ontario Hockey League.
Yeah, hey, and listen, speaking of money, that dovetails nicely into the money that the Ontario Hockey League is getting from the Ontario government. It's part of an overall $30 million package for sports, recreation, tourism, et cetera. $3 million to the O, which will help teams pay. The 17 Ontario-based teams, mind you, there are 3 in the States, but those 17 teams are going to get some financial support to meet their scholarship obligations. So I haven't done the breakdown per team, but you're looking at roughly, I don't know, in those 17 teams, like 30, 40K. But, hey, it's money that the league didn't have before.
Yeah, it's not a massive number, and I don't think it should be a head-turning number by any means, but at least the government is showing the importance of the Ontario League and again giving them money to help out with that big expenditure that they have when it comes to scholarships. There's a lot of teams that fork out a lot of money every year that for kids that go and use their education package. So $3 million, it's not 30 million, it's not 17 million, but at least it's something to help out these franchises that are obviously struggling after a canceled year last year. No fans for a handful of games this year, 500 fans for a few handful more. There's a lot of teams that are going to be struggling right now. And I think that $3 million it's not a lot, but it definitely helps. You're not going to look a gift horse in the mouth when it comes to money.
Yeah, I guess it works out to like 150K per team, give or take. So it's not bad. I wonder how people will react to, this amateur league, or though it got the elite status, right, where fans could start going before our minor hockey teams could get fans back, et cetera. But I don't know how people will react to the idea that this amateur league is getting money and financial support from the provincial government. But hey, an election's not too far away and Doug Ford wants some votes, and damn it, if you're at an OHL game, you can vote for Doug Ford too.
Well, I was going to say, I could tell you how it's going to go over, but we could sit here and talk about that and the political ramifications of it. But I think our job on here is to talk about how it affects the OHL, and it affects the OHL positively because, again, it's not a lot of money, but at least the teams are getting some help in a time when they desperately need it.
You are loving the way 3 players are affecting the Owen Sound attack positively, and Colby Barlow, Servac Petrovsky, and Cedric Gandon. All 3 of these rookies, albeit a couple of them playing what would be their second year, but first year playing in the Ontario Hockey League because of the double cohort. And they are all going to smash a 15-year-old record in Owen Sound. When Bobby Ryan, back, I think it was 04-05, he set the Owen Sound franchise record for goals in a rookie season at 22. All three of these guys are going to blow right through it. And the Attack have won 6 in a row.
It's crazy. They're just the production they're getting from their rookies. And we had talked about before the season, Farzy, just about how we were both really interested in this year and this upcoming OHL entry-level draft, because you're really going to get to see which teams draft better than others. And Owen Sound's basically bragging right now with that line they put together of Barlow, Gandon, Petrovsky. The three of them put together just seems to have worked. Cedric Gandon with 22 goals, tying Bobby Ryan's franchise rookie record. Servac Petrovsky and Colby Barlow with 21 goals apiece. All three of them playing on the same line right now. And it seems to be working well for the Attack because they haven't lost since the three rookies were put together. And I watched some of their game the other night on CHL TV, the new app that they have. You should get it if you don't. They just look so good together. And even a guy like Barlow, he's the only 05, the true rookie, if you will, that was pointed out to me on Twitter. He's just so big. He's 6 foot. I think he's like 215, but he moves as well as a guy like Cedric Gandon, who flies around out there. Gandon had a 4-goal night the other night and a 4-3 overtime win. Every goal for his team that game, which is crazy. I just think the future looks so bright in Owen Sound in a season where they traded Andrew Parrott and stuff. You look and you think, yeah, it's a rebuilding year. They traded Matt Guzda, and then you look at those three and you're like, they're going to have those three for the next 2 years, if not longer. It's awesome to see because there's not too many rookies excelling in this league this year. I know we talked about it the other night, but I tweeted it that there's only, I think like 10 players that were drafted in 05. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players that were 05 births that have over 10 goals this year. And Barlow's leading all of them by 5 with 21. Second place is Oshawa's Richie and Peterborough's Lardis at 16. So when you look at Barlow's 21, that's pretty impressive for an 05 player.
It's the future that you referenced that gets me so excited just for this league and its smallest market, because who doesn't want to pull for the David in the David and Goliath battles? And arguably Owen Sound is the David of the Ontario Hockey League as its smallest market. Both you and I have fond memories of that 2011 championship team when it was basically the Bayshore South in Mississauga for that OHL championship. And had it not been for the fans making that drive like a big parade or a big procession from Grey County into Peel region, I mean, if not for those fans, who knows what the attendance would have looked like, not just there, but into the Memorial Cup as well. So thinking of that, a decade and a bit ago, but possibly with this core, this nucleus, building this Attack franchise back to a championship contender. And my, oh my, this is what you have to do in the Midwest Division, which many will argue is the toughest division in the entire CHL, forget just the OHL. And the Owen Sound Attack, at least right now, the early returns look pretty good for the next few years.
I just think back, Mike, to when Mike Fuda got Bobby Ryan to come to Owen Sound and what that move, pulling in a player like Bobby Ryan, did for that franchise. Now you have 3 players that are about to break his rookie franchise scoring record. So are you telling me the Owen Sound Attack have 3 Bobby Ryans on their roster right now?
Wow. I mean,
I don't want to put too much pressure on the 3 of them because it is Bobby Ryan, but that's a pretty interesting stat where 3 of your rookies are about to break your franchise scoring record. And listen, I didn't watch a lot of Bobby Ryan's games, but I'm assuming these 3 are probably getting a little more ice time than Bobby did in his rookie season, just the way the landscape of the OHL is. But regardless, if Owen Sound's going to have these 3 for the next 2 to 3 years playing together, holy cow, they put it together in the rookie season. They're only going to get stronger. They're only going to get bigger. They're only going to get faster. And that franchise draws really well because there's not much else to do in Owen Sound. It's going to be packed up there, full of just scouts, let alone fans. The 3 of them seem to have found some chemistry, and I mean, it's going to be fun, but I can't wait to watch them, the team, over the next 2 to 3 years. It's going to suck for Rangers fans, I'm sure, because they're scoring at an unbelievable clip. But stick tap to Dale DeGray, who just continues to get it done. Like you look back, there's stars coming out of Owen Sound every year. whether it was Maxime Shushko or whether it was Nick Suzuki or whether it was Aiden Dudas and Sean Dursey. There's always a couple in On Sound that always seem to graduate to the next level.
You mean Nick Suzuki, the former Guelph Storm? Because they'll be sure to remind you of that. Just pointing that out to you.
Played like 12 games. Relax, Larry.
We got to give a stick tap to the OHL champions for 2022, the Hamilton Bulldogs as well. Winners of 9 straight, overtaking Mississauga for tops, not just in the Eastern Conference, but in the Ontario Hockey League. I'm starting to look a lot more at that West versus East, and we've talked for a long time about West being best, and you and I have chatted about this on the podcast before too, but the Eastern Conference is standing up to be counted. Is it because East is playing East and West is playing West? I don't know, but there's a lot to like about that Bulldogs team. I make the joke, but I mean it too. It's just a half joke that I think this is the team to beat when you add the best defenseman, you add the best forward at the trade deadline to an already good club. I think the pressure's on in Hamilton to go back to that OHL championship where they just were 4 years ago. So looking good over there, and nice to see for the city, and a great owner that we already mentioned who does things, I think, the right way. It's nice to see for the franchise for sure.
Fantastic owner, Michael Anlauer. I worked with him when I was interning at Mohawk College with the Hamilton Bulldogs. Still got my championship watch from their Calder Cup trip that he gave us, even though I was an intern. Just little things like that go the extra mile for an owner. You mentioned that they went out and got the best forward and the best defenseman. Steve Staios put the pressure on Jay McKee, because you talk about how Hamilton's going to win. They have to win now. Like anything other than an OHL championship is a failure.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, you go out and you get the best forward and the best defenseman, you better win. And they have been winning. But we didn't talk about this, and it's an honest question, because I was having a conversation this weekend, and we often get asked about, well, I know I do, and I'm sure you do as well. We often get asked about the OHL when you're out with friends or family or whatever. And I was in conversation about the Hamilton Bulldogs. And I said, we were talking about Arbor Jacki, and I'm wondering if I'm wearing my Rangers glasses, maybe even 2 sets, because I saw him so much. But the conversation led to the question, is Arbor Jacki the best player in this league?
I think you can make a case for it. I would say the best defenseman, but
Sure.
It's hard to not make the case as best player. And sure, maybe there's that bias because we saw him so much, but you just have to look at the story. And I think when you consider the story as a free agent invitation into the a free agent invitation to the pros, where he signs a contract after his first pro camp, when you consider what it takes to accomplish that, and then recognize that he's bringing that kind of dedication and commitment to the game today, listen, I'll take a team full of guys with heart like that over a team full of guys with talent, flat out skill like Luke Evangelista, if I can put it that way. And Wyatt Johnston, for example, when we look at guys that like to tear it up offensively, they're those intangibles, if you will, that heart that everybody loves so much. And I think you get that in spades with Arbor Jacki. So I'd put him in the conversation. I'd gladly have that conversation over a pint of beer with anybody, but you're going to have a hard time moving me off best defenseman. Best player, I'll open my ears to a little bit more, but damn, there's a convincing case, I think, on both of those fronts.
Yeah, best defenseman, I don't even think I won't even have the argument or the discussion. I think he's hands and shoulders above the best defenseman. I just thought, because someone asked why isn't he playing pro? Like, what can't he do to play pro? I didn't have an answer. There's nothing he can't do. The only reason he's not playing pro is because he just signed as a free agent. Go back to the OHL, dominate, show us you're meant for pro, which is what he's done. Like, you watch I've watched a couple Bulldogs games. He's head and shoulders the best player on the ice.
Sure.
Like, he can defend well. He's heavy to play against. He makes the first outlet pass. He's tough to defend or tough to beat in the neutral zone. He can skate. He provides the goals. He can quarterback your power play. I honestly am trying to find something in this league that he cannot do, and I don't think there is anything.
He has added shootout goal winners to his arsenal. So there you go.
Yeah, anyway, it just came in conversation. I wanted to know your point of topic. It's a conversation that we could have for ages, because Luke Evangelista, Wyatt Johnston, Rory Kearns, I'm sure Brennan Othman, even there's tons of players we can talk about, especially on the offensive side of the puck, that can do so many things. Luke Evangelista's skill set is off the charts. I'm sure that I am a little biased because we got to see Arbor so much and his development over the years. But I just was looking at this year and I thought, I haven't seen a player dominate the game like we saw Arbor do in his time with the Rangers on any other team this year.
Yeah, that's a fair point. The guy that is our guest on OHL Stories this week is a guy that was one of the best in the league when he was in it, remains, when you look at the alumni, one of the best Guelph Storm ever, and a guy that we covered early on. Well, you were still almost playing with, and I was covering when I started in this league, but lots of fun to get this guy on the pod this week.
Yeah, I love when we were talking with him. You were like, "Oh, did Marty snipe on you, Pope?" Like, yes, everyone sniped on me, Farsi. And everyone.
I like to remind people of that. That's all. It keeps you honest.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it does. Marcus Stroman once said, "Height doesn't measure heart," and I think you could basically have that as a tagline for Marty St. Pierre's career in the OHL and in professional hockey. The all-time Guelph Storm assist leader, near the tops for all-time Guelph Storm points, an OHL champion with the Guelph Storm. Multiple NHL teams, 3 Original Six, a 20 plus years career from the OHL until his retirement finally. And now he's going to turn to something a little less stressful in fighting fires. Ladies and gentlemen, Marty St. Pierre.
Well, Marty, I was just saying to you as we got this thing started that both Poper's and my careers are kind of tied to yours. Chris was still trying to make the OHL when you were a rookie. I was just starting in broadcasting, and Guelph was where Rogers TV put me. And here we are about a year to the day since you announced your retirement, and more than 1,000 professional games. That's a staggering number.
Yeah, time flies, huh?
No kidding. Did you ever think to 1,000? Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, 1,000 came to a point where a few years ago I was like, oh wow, I'm close to 1,000. You know, to me that is a big accomplishment. But then you kind of think, you watch some NHL games and you're like, these guys are playing 1,000 games in the NHL, let alone some guys are playing 1,000 games for the exact same NHL team. And I think that's even more astonishing. I mean, we play 56 games in Europe. It's a little less taxing on the body, but those guys are grinding out 82 games plus playoffs and 1,000 games. That's crazy. But it seems like yesterday, 22 years ago, that I was getting picked up at the old, I think it was the Memorial Garden or whatever in Guelph.
Yep.
My dad came and dropped me off, and my old roommate Charlie Stevens was picking me up to head to my billet. So that was exactly 22 years ago. Yeah, long time.
You think about it, your playing career was 21 years from major junior to the end of pro.
Yeah.
When you were younger, though, did you ever think that's what I want to do? Spend 20 years playing hockey?
No, I mean, not 20 years. No, but, I played in 12 different countries in 17 years. Never I'd ever thought that I would do that again. But those are good life experiences and memories. But, growing up as a kid, I think it was just more, I want to be a hockey player. You kind of dream you want to play in the NHL, but I think it was just to play hockey. And then as you grow older, you kind of realize that, well, I can keep up with these guys, or I can score a little bit more goals. And next thing you know, you're playing the OHL. And, as a young guy, I had a good season, and then I can hold up to these NHL draft picks, and I never got drafted. But then we win the OHL Cup, and I get the overage player of the year. So then you kind of, I can play probably in the NHL or try to get a kick at the can. But never I thought when I was a kid, 21 years of junior pro hockey, but I'm pretty happy I did it and I have no regrets.
Even before that time with the Guelph Storm and the Ontario Hockey League, you had the opportunity to play in that legendary tournament in Quebec, right? Where it's like a Stanley Cup if you get a chance to play in that thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny because last week I was at my parents' house just east of Ottawa here, and we had some memorabilias and little pins and little medals from that tournament. And, you hear from anywhere from guys all over the States that, especially around Boston, there's a lot of teams from Boston or Detroit that they still do go play at that Pee Wee tournament. I think we played the Russians back in my days and we got spanked. But I would love to find that score sheet against that Russian team and see if there's any guys that actually played in the NHL, because there's some good Russians on that team. But that was pretty fun I don't even know how old I was, maybe 11 years old or something. You're getting asked autographs coming out of the rink or getting in the hotel. So that was just a great experience for especially Pee Wee second year Pee Wee minor league hockey players, right?
Take us back to your first year in Guelph, Marty. What was your welcome to the OHL moment when you got to Guelph?
Oh my! Welcome to Guelph. Well, I think Charlie Stevens picking me up. That was a pretty big deal. I mean, he was drafted by, I want to say it was Washington, first or second round. I remember his license plate was something like NHL 99 or some odd about him being drafted. So it's pretty intimidating, but he was the nicest guy on earth. And I think it was my first or second exhibition game. I got absolutely smoked center ice. Still kind of getting used to the speed and there's bigger guys because I played tier 2 back in Hawkesbury in 99. And it's not even close to that. But I remember the visor kind of cut me on my chin because they just came down. I was like, wow, okay. I got to keep my head up a little bit. And that's how fast it is. But it was probably the best thing for me that happened right away. The kind of little wake up call and keep my head up and not kind of cross the ice with my head down. But then again, I probably still did it within like the last 2 years, right? Playing, but you're just being a stubborn player. But I think that was a big thing that from, minor hockey to Pee Wee Bantam, tier 2, then you play in the OHL. The game's definitely faster. Guys are bigger, obviously older too, because you're playing with, if you're a 16, 17-year-old, you're playing against 19, 20-year-old that I've been drafted in the NHL. So that was probably the reality. But for me also, just my first year, we were moving into this, I don't know if it's called the Sleeman Arena still or in Guelph, but we had great fans. I think they were selling out like 4,600 fans a game. So that was pretty cool as far as a young guy trying to, play in front of that many people. So those are the early memories, but I remember it being hard for the first couple of months, especially being away from home, right? You have your village, you have to adjust a second family, but everything went smooth so far from then on.
What team do you remember least liking to play against?
Least liking? Well, I think right away with Guelph, it was either Kitchener or London. It was just already stamped before I even got there. Kitchener being so close, right? Probably the closest team in the OHL in between the two cities. And then London there were always big rivalries for some reason. So right away, my first couple of years, I think it was like Rick Nash. They had these, Cartners and not Matt Cartner. They had some big defensemen, a lot of draft picks. And I know Kitchener was stacked with guys. So those were, really hard right away to get into it, let alone I was still trying to get used to the OHL, let alone the rivalry. And then we were still playing in the old London arena, the old, I couldn't even tell you what the name was, but that was pretty intimidating for them. So, those are the two teams right away from the get-go, same division teams and rivals, and I didn't stop. And I'm sure it still goes on to this day, So
It does.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
There you go.
How tough was it for you to come into the league being a smaller guy with such bigger guys back then, especially on the back end?
Yeah, it was the old before the old CB, I guess the old rules before CBS was much more clutch and grab and stuff. But I think we had a good mix in Guelph, with Morgan McCormick, Charlie Stevens, and all those guys. And we had guys like Kevin Dahlman, who was a smaller player on the back end, but had a lot of success. But I think that the chemistry that we had in Guelph and the way that we were playing kind of benefited me as a small guy. But again, you have to adjust pretty quick, or else I would have got smoked again center ice and probably a few other cuts in my face. But it's just like anything else. You have to analyze real quick, and you're a boy against men now, and you want to be a man against men. So you have to take a hit, give a hit, and then not back down. But you got to stay in your lane. You got to know your role and know when to keep your mouth shut, I guess.
Do you remember a time you maybe didn't keep your mouth shut and it got you in some trouble?
Well, I had Colt King as my winger. So I was Andrew Brown and Colt King. So that was definitely creating a lot of space for me. I was pretty lippy back then, but nothing concrete that But I do remember Cole kind of telling me after a couple games, he's like, listen, like I'll back you up, but don't bring it upon yourself to, don't start the fire if you can't put it out, kind of thing, because he would be putting it out, right? So, but then again, like I said, we had a good mix. He was able to put the puck in the net, and I was able to feed him the puck and create some space, and then I could do my thing. So that was a good combo. But no, I learned real quick not to chirp against the older guys, because I would get put in the hospital real quick.
You had Jeff Jackson as a coach. You guys had a really bad game up in Owen Sound one night. Do you remember that? What happened when you got home?
Is it the one we bag skated at 2:00 in the morning? Oh yeah, that fun. That was hell. It was in Owen Sound or Sarnia. Either way, around that corner of Ontario. Yeah, we got spanked. I think it might have been 7-1, 7. I can't even remember, but yeah, we got back, and then I remember our arena obviously was attached to the Guelph Mall downtown, and there's security lights from the mall that would glare onto the ice, just barely glare, cover 2 sections and glare a little bit on the ice. And I remember getting in, and then he's like, we're going on the ice, kind of like the whole miracle on ice mentality. And sure enough, we had school the next day too. Yeah, we got dressed, soaked gear, soaked gitch, and no pucks. And then we had to skate. I can't remember how long we skated, but man, did we ever hate him for that. But rightfully so. We had a few bad games, I think, in a row, and he was trying to teach us a lesson. But we had to do boards to boards, and I think we had to yell a certain phrase every time we're touching the boards. Kind of like I said, miracle on ice when they're getting bag skated. But that was hell. That wasn't fun. I don't think we lost a game after that for a while, but definitely put Spark under our butts to not get spanked like that for 7-1.
Yeah, who'd want to go through that again, right? That's good incentive.
Yeah, no, exactly. And especially with guys that are 17, 18, 19, you kind of don't want to go through that again. And I remember guys being just zombies, the next day, and billets were asking where we were. And, it was just, he was on his own page trying to teach us a lesson, but I can't remember how well we did after, but I'm sure we did fairly okay, or at least the effort was there. I think that's what he was asking from us.
Real quick, just on that note, sorry, Mike, just why do you think, Marty, you just quit a year ago? So you're playing now and you played back then. Why do you think that kind of tactic worked better back then than if you tried it now?
Well, Jeff was really old school, and it was more like a college mentality. So you have a little bit more control, but I think nowadays you have a lot of guys that are on different pages and different philosophies and mentalities, and they see they're molded into a certain player from their strength strength coach in the off seasons. And it's very hard to it's tough for coaches because there's so many variants and different types of players. Some players need a kick in the ass, a slap in the head, I don't know what, during the game, but probably his winger, you can't do that because he's more fragile. You just have to talk to him better. The other one, you probably just have to ream him out in between the first and second in your office, so I don't know. It probably worked better before because that was more like the old school mentality kind of thing. And I say old school, this is early 2000s. It's not even in the 80s and 90s. So I can't even imagine what they were going through. But I think guys bought in more back then. I think it was not violence by any means, but just more rough and tough kind of thing. And nowadays it's very touchy because you have a lot of things that depend on the guys are a little bit more soft these days, I would say, mentally, and I wouldn't say physically, because there's guys that are way better in shape than when we were. But I think, it's touch and go nowadays. You got to be careful.
What was it like then transitioning from Jeff Jackson to Sean Camp? Obviously, Sean had been there as an assistant, but then he becomes the head coach, and obviously different guys. What's that like as a player?
Yeah, so I was with Camper in Guelph in Tier 2, Junior A, in 99-2000. So Camper and I came up together, and obviously I know Camper. We had success. I had the Rookie of the Year in that CJHL in 99-2000. So he was my type of coach. I think Jeff was. We had some good games. I mean, we had a good record to start with. I think he was implementing more of a college atmosphere, college structure, whether it was on and off the ice with school, with the players. And it's kind of tough too with playing major junior. You have to travel, you have to do this. And then it kind of faded away, and you kind of started losing some guys. And We had it was time at some point, I think it was halfway through the season, to kind of, just like any, hockey's a business, and move on. But I've got along with Jeff also, but at some points he was very systematic, and I felt, for me, as I got to take some chances, and sometimes in systems and as an offensive players, and I didn't feel like I could do that, especially the line that I was with, Dustin Brown and all those guys, Dan Paye. And when we went with Camper, I think it was more beneficial to my type of game, and I think it kind of showed with the record that we had with Camper, and everybody loved Camper, and everybody loved Jeff too. It's just a matter of sometimes some coaches, the spark kind of fades out a little bit quicker. Some guys takes 5-7 years, and it is what it is. It was that's hockey for you. But yeah, Camper was awesome. We had some defensive systems, we had some offensive systems, and we were able to go into London and beat London, but then they would come in our building and beat us as well. So but I have nothing bad to say about Camper. He's great, and I heard he's having success in that University of Guelph, and I don't even doubt that. That's Camper. He's had success wherever he's gone.
One more Jeff Jackson story out of you first.
Yeah.
Do you remember the time though basically the entire team broke curfew?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, actually, I forgot about that. Yeah, I think what was it? That's the thing with him too, is I don't know if it's in the state because his guys are 21, it's college and all that stuff, but we were allowed to have a few beers. But then again, in Guelph, you could walk across the street and there's Trappers Alley and Palace, and I was at Trappers quite a bit. But then again, my play wasn't sliding or anything, so I had but for I remember, I think I called in. We had curfew at 10:30. We had to call in a call block kind of thing, and I had to cover for Charlie, my roommate. And I call in, you have to say your name, and then the next day he pulled me in his office, replayed the clip. He's like, "That's the same voice of you and Charlie." He's like, "Why are you covering for Charlie?" kind of thing, right? So I got called out on that, but yeah, we were a few guys. I think we won quite a few games. I want to say maybe we had like a Friday and Saturday game for some reason, and we weren't playing till the Thursday after. So we had a day off the Sunday, and we decided to walk across the street. And then we're like, what, if one does it, we're all doing it, kind of thing, the older guys. And we might have been 10 guys, the older guys, the 18, 19 or whatever it was, had a good night like we've had in the past. And somehow we got back to Jeff, and it was the next game. We were at home, and then he's like, "Yep, all you guys are not playing. You're in one of the suites," and we were getting booed, and people, oh my God, it was horrible. But I mean, it was just the whole fact that he was trying to implement the curfew, and you got to follow the rules and the coaches. And we didn't really have a curfew with Camper. That's the thing. But he's like, if we start losing some games or guys are starting to slip, then we'll put a curfew on. But then we ended up winning the championship, so we never had a curfew.
Yeah, when you're sitting 10 guys in a suite because they missed curfew, that's one way to send a message.
It was right above the Zamboni entrance too, and I remember fans were turning like, "This is embarrassing," because the team got spanked. I can't remember getting sued, but it was all over the newspapers, and it was just literally like we went for beers when he said no. But you don't say that to Jeff Jackson, so we got our BB whacked for sure.
You just mentioned the championship with Sean Kemp, obviously.
Yeah.
When you look back on your time in Guelph, Marty, can you see the way it, like, building up to that championship, and particularly, of course, the 2004 year, it's active at the trade deadline. Everything seems to be going in that direction.
Yeah. We knew that, Dustin Brown was leaving. He was a high draft pick to LA. We had Adam Dennis as far as the net. We got Klein from St. Mike's. We got Girardi from Barrie. We got Nico back from the Sioux, which was my co-captain. And then we had guys like Brett Trudell that played with me and Callahan. So Callahan basically on my line took over from Dustin Brown. And again, he's a right shot, can score, he's fast, creating some space. And then Brett Trudell, who's not a big high draft pick, but just fit in perfectly with me and Callie. So that was kind of like a steal for us from the Sioux. And then he played on the top line. So that's just part of good scouting and good coaching and stuff. So there's me, Callie, and Trudy, and then we had Paye, and then we made some trades for, Cam Jansen. So we needed like a tough guy. But Cam was, he's a great guy, great teammate, but man, everybody was scared of him. So he would create a lot of space for him. So sometimes we'd go into Peterborough and they put him on my line. So I would just dump the puck right in his corner and he would just beam right to the D's and create some space. And then in the second period, they put me back with Callahan. And then the D's would think like, it was getting, smoke them in the boards, but it was me and Callie that would take the puck. So it was just like a big tactic, but he helped us out tremendously during the finals. But then we had guys like Matt Ryan, but then again, our power play was, incredible with Klein, Girardi, Trudell, me and Callie. So you could tell over the years, the Mem Cup, we did well, as far as the first game, and then second game is Kootenay, we kind of choked, and then we just never could get back to it. But adding a piece here, adding a piece there, and kind of thing, and then leading up to our last piece was Cam Jansen 2004, and then we just steamrolled, the rest of the season, and then our biggest challenge was the conference finals against London, and after that we ended up swiping Mississauga in 4 games in the finals. So, but yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. A lot of trades and a lot of time and buying into the system, but Sean Camp was really good at it for making us do that.
We want to get to the Memorial Cup in just a little bit, but I'm sure the no curfew from Camper in Cologne is a lot different than no curfew at Guelph. But
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, we they made sure that our hotel was far enough. And I was actually rooming with Cam Jansen, and Janny's like, I didn't want to go out. I want to go out. And I'm like, but it's not the time and place. Like, it's only for a week. But yeah, Kelowna, I remember World Cup was like May 18th to the 26th or something. So it was really nice outside. It's Kelowna, BC weather. Yeah, we didn't do well at all.
Were you one of the guys? Were you one of the guys that got caught in the casino?
No. That was another team. That wasn't us. Thank God. But no, I can't remember. I might have been one of the Gatineau guys that got caught, but no, that was not us. Thank God. Like I said, our hotel was far enough. We might have been like a few miles down from the center town, wherever the rink was. And there's nothing around. So there's no time to get in trouble. But again, by the time we got to the Mem Cup, we were, we played 7 games. That series against London, the conference finals, was absolutely draining. It was a Stanley Cup for us in the OHL. Game 7 in London. Even if we swept the finals against Mississauga, we were absolutely exhausted. So there's no time to go out, and we were literally practicing, go eat, and then rest up. So there's no didn't even need curfew in Kelowna, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because you mentioned London being obviously the toughest out in the conference final and 7 games, but you were also up 3-1 in the series, and then you have to go on the road to win Game 7. What was the psyche of the team like?
Yeah, that was crazy because we won one of the games in London. Yeah. So we knew we could win in London, but I mean, that building is intimidating as far as where this sits, 10, 12,000 or whatever it is. Maybe 8 to 10,000 or whatever, but definitely way bigger than Guelph. And they were a powerhouse. They had way more draft picks, NHL draft picks. And then Game 7 in London, but I remember it was, we were leading 3-1. And then I think it was a tie game. I think it was a tie game after 2. And then we just, I don't know what Camper said, but we just kind of got a second win. And then I want to say it's Callahan or Paye that scored. And then we scored 2 empty net goals. But I think Paye scored the second empty net goal, of course. But I think we jumped like it was like the actual OHL championship. Yeah. But I don't really know what happened. Maybe it was meant to be because they won the year after and they won the whole thing. So maybe it was our time, but it was a tough building to play. But I remember that they benched Rob Schremp. They benched Schrempy during that final, like the conference finals or something, or one of those big guys got benched. So that kind of really helped us. I don't know what happened. I think it was Rob Schremp. So that kind of helped us because one of those guys get benched. It's helps us to get a better player on the ice too. So But no, those are memories I'll have forever. I remember second empty net goals. We were jumping as high as you can. And then we had to play another final because we thought it was going to be a little bit harder. But that was definitely our OHL Cup, that game 7 in London. Yeah.
Marty, we've had Janny on this podcast. It was a ride.
Yeah. Yeah. For
I
sure.
think he said he scored the game-winning goal in that game
Yeah.
7, but whatever, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
What was it like though when you hear the news of Jansen being traded to Guelph, but then that big personality, Janny, comes walking into a very tight dressing room when he's carrying his suitcases, you know, he's got the big. What was it like when Janny first came in?
Yeah, it was actually, like I said, it was in Peterborough. And he walked in the room, and it was the old rink in Windsor. So I just remember him from there. And he hurt guys. Like, he was a man against boys. And he had this white Under Armour, you know, skin tight shirt. And he looked like the Under Armour was like those mannequins, so, you know, flawless upper body. And it was like, who is this guy? The nicest guy ever. Yeah, he's funny and he'll say some, you know, random stuff. You're like, what? But yeah, that first game, he was on my right side, so he wanted me to dump the puck. He didn't even want to touch the puck in the neutral zone. So basically, break out. I wouldn't even look to my right. And it's easy for me because I'm a left shot, so I would look to my right as he is a right-handed shot too. But I wouldn't look. I'd skate, and then dump it in the right corner, so across from Jansen. He's like, just leave it there and I'll fucking take care of it. So then you hear him, he would skate and just scare the shit out of these defensemen. And like, if he hit those guys, he would usually take a spatula and peel them off the boards. But if he would miss them, which 3/4 of the time he would miss them, he would smoke the boards just as hard as, oh man, probably hurt the boards if anything. But the sound that it made, like, you better off. It's almost, you probably want to get hit instead of hearing that sound of the boards, because he did not stop at all. And he did that all game and then just create some space for us. But he was just a nice addition, fit in well, just a nice guy, well respected, and obviously he had his career after that, you know, well deserved for him.
Did Owen Sound give you a scare at all in that first round? It went 7 games. You had home ice, obviously, but it was back and forth, home and home.
Yeah, because we had, you know, they had a good team. The DeVos, the Jarretts, and all that. But we had a few goals that were let in from their blue line. Just wild, you know, lobs and that got in, and I think they came back and they won a couple of games in Guelph. So we're like, oh shit, you know, that's a team that's going to beat us. Kind of like you know, one of those LA Kings that sneak up in 8th place and they win the Stanley Cup kind of thing, or St. Louis, I guess. But yeah, that was that game 7. Honestly, we had no idea what was going to happen. We just played our heart out, and obviously we took over. As far as we were definitely better on paper, but they were playing really well, and they were matching lines and all that stuff. But thank God we won against them. that was a tough series for sure.
Away from the rink, you lived with Gary and Linda. They got a reputation in Guelph of being some of the best. What were they like to you?
Awesome. They were the best. I mean, I lived my first year with Charlie Stevens with David and Nancy White, and then they stopped billing after a year. And then me and Nico went with Dan McNeil, with Gary and Linda, and then Joey and Amanda, their 2 kids. They were the best. I mean, they would drop us off downtown. They'd pick us up downtown. We had a pool and a spa in the back. The food, they bent over backwards for us, and that makes life so much easier for young guys like us. Or now by then we're in their 3rd and 4th year, so 19 and 20. But you know, obviously we respected them also. We were in their house, you're in their family, so we got really close to them. But they're part of our success just as much as anybody else, because like I said, we had breakfast, lunch, made dinner every time. Pre-game meal was done. Gary come home from work just to make us pre-game meal, and you know, we had a lot of laughs. They're awesome. But they like to have a couple of drinks too, and you know, I had buddies from Otto come down, and they were more than welcoming. So like I said, they played a big part in making life easier for us off the ice, to have success on the ice.
Speaking of one of those off-ice contributors, it's hard to talk about the Guelph Storm organization without mentioning the guy who's in the Guelph Sports Hall of Fame and was a fixture behind that bench and part of that organization. Of course, I'm talking about the legendary Rusty Hammond as a head trainer, equipment guy. What do you remember of Rusty?
Rusty was always happy-go-lucky. Treated if Rusty didn't like you, you had to you're in a pickle. But no, he treated the draft picks and the older guys very well. And I always I know he was picking on some guys, but he was the best. He'd been, like I said, he'd been over backwards, sticks, equipment, skates. And there's a reason why guys like Jeff O'Neill, Dan Cloutier, Todd Bertuzzi, or whoever would come back in town, and first guy they would see is Russ Hammond, right? Come to the rink, right in his office, and you come back from school, you go to practice, Todd Bertuzzi's in his office. Like, what's going on, right? Just he was the same from mid-90s to whenever he retired, a few years back. So he was the best. And equipment guys, they work behind the scenes, and they don't get enough credit. From, like I said, from sticks to whatever. It can be long sometimes. You got to deal with 20 guys. And then some teams have different budgets and stuff. But man, I love Russ, and well deserved for his accolades there.
You look at that team, and there's some standout players. And you mentioned your former roommate Nico. Are you shocked Nico didn't get a bigger look when it comes to pro hockey?
Yeah, I mean, some guys too. Some guys just, they're good enough to maybe get a crack at the AHL or East Coast. You just don't have the drive for it. Some guys take their school package and realize that that's more for them. So I think he was one of those, and he went to St. FX, which is a great school, and had a good 4 years and graduated, met his wife, and I think he's got 3 kids now. So he lives back in the Sioux. So things happen for a reason. And then some guys kind of go to school and they realize that they want to play pro. So after a couple of years, they leave. But I was surprised. He had the talent, he had the drive, and the right work ethic. But like I said, it's a personal choice, I think, for some guys that are kind of like on the bubble, and it didn't really help for us. After 2004, it was the lockout too, right?
Yeah. So
everybody kind of escalated or de-escalated down. So it's unfortunate.
One of the things I like to do, Marty, when we're getting ready to talk to a guest is look at their hockey DB page and go through the rosters and see some of the guys you might have played with, some of the coaches you played for, etc. I'm looking through your DB page today, and every time I clicked on another AHL team, it's, Marty's leading the team in scoring. Marty's leading the team in scoring. Marty's leading do you remember the teams you didn't lead in scoring? Because it's got to be a much shorter list.
Yeah.
His first year. That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
First year, yeah, maybe. Well, that's I wasn't the biggest guy. I wasn't the fastest guy either. And that's why one of the reasons why I didn't get drafted. And that's what I've been told. I didn't have the fifth speed, that speed that would separate me from others, right? Which is fine. It's more of a playmaker. So I would let guys come to me and then pass through them, kind of thing. So that was kind of like my philosophy back then. But no, so I had to stand out. And, if I was to go on a team that would see me as a bottom 6 forward, with the type of player that I am, it's not that easy to play that type of role, shut down 3rd line center, 4th line grinder, block shots, PK. And you got to tip your hat to those guys that had success and had great careers in that. But for me, I had to be in top 6. I had to have some PP, and I was an offensive player. So I had to put up the numbers, and I was very, very lucky. And it sounds cliche, but year after year after year that I got put in with a lot of, natural goal scorers to, from Dustin Brown to Ryan Callahan, those guys in juniors to, even when I turned pro, Troy Brower, the Buchenskis, like just pure goal scorers. And it works out good with me because I'm a, pure playmaker and disher. So I had to put up the points to get noticed.
That championship year in Guelph, I don't know how upset were you that Dustin Brown didn't come back, besides being happy for him that he didn't come back?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of bittersweet that an 18-year-old makes an NHL team. I mean, it's kind of, especially in LA, but would have been nice because he's the heart and soul of that team. Him and Pierre kind of, took off with Guelph, the new arena and the new jerseys and all that stuff. But I mean, I think he was on to bigger and better things to sign his big contract in LA, and he's still playing to this day in LA. So I think the OHL championship, you could have just kind of pushed it to the side and enjoy the NHL life.
Their names have come up a couple of times. Todd Bertuzzi, Jeff O'Neill. You finish. It's not a bad sandwich, right? O'Neill, St. Pierre, and then Bertuzzi for all-time points. But you just talked about being a playmaker by trade, really. All-time assist leader in Guelph Storm history, sitting right here talking to us. And you must have known you were getting close to that mark, because you went over it by, I think, 3 or 4 over O'Neill's number. But
yeah, no, I think it happened in Sarnia, one of the last few games. Definitely leading up. I think one of their trainers, Shane, maybe. I think he told me when I was up to like 2 or was it 3 something. I was like 20 points short. He's like, you're getting up there, you know. But that year, I had 2-3 points a game easily. So if I didn't get 2-3 points, I was bitter, you know. And then they had 3-4. I had a good game, but. And then I ended up passing Jeff O'Neill. But you look, he got to that point with probably half the games played compared to me. So you can just see how, and that was like old time hockey also. So those guys were definitely studs back in the day. But I look back and I got hurt my 3rd year. I broke my kneecap blocking a shot. So I think I only had 56 points. And I had an okay season, but if I kind of had maybe, 65 to 70 points, I was kind of healthy and whatnot, I would have passed the all-time points. But you can't have it all. But definitely a good accomplishment to finish all-time assist leaders. But again, Jeff did that with half the games played. But we'll keep it as number 1 for now.
Absolutely, that's what it shows.
That's
That's right.
Exactly.
When did you decide to cut the hair?
Well, cut the hair. Yeah, I think I cut the hair after when I won the OHL. I cut that hair right off. It was a little way too thick, and then I grew it when I was in Rockford. I think in 2000. It might have been 2002. No, 2009, 2008 maybe. I grew it back again, and then I realized that there's a reason why I cut it after winning the OHL. So I donated to Locks of Love, and they made some wigs out of it. Yeah, so it kind of worked out good. But my hair is not made to be that thick and that long. But it was cool while it lasted in junior for sure.
It was a heavy mop.
There was the heavy mop, absolutely. Yeah.
You got a chance to play 39 NHL games, 3 goals. Do you remember them all?
Yeah. 2 against Pittsburgh and 1 in New York against the Islanders. Yep. First one, I was on the plane, and Patrick Lalime, who sat beside me, as a goalie at that time for the Blackhawks, he's like, I got a good feeling for you. You're going to score. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And the old Pittsburgh Arena, it was on the power play with Havlat, Toronto, Wisniewski, and I can't remember who else, but it was a shot from the point, tipped off Fleury's left pad, and I was coming down from my side on the power play and buried it up in net, and then went behind the net. And our backup goalie was in the entrance where the visiting team comes on, and I saw Patrick Lalime. He's pointing at me. He's like, "I told you so." So that was good. And then the second one was it was with Pittsburgh. I scored 1 with Chicago, and then 2 with Pittsburgh, 2 with Boston, and then the 1 was in Pittsburgh. I was playing PK for some reason. And then Crosby tried to feed it through the box to Malkin, who was behind me, and I caught it with my skate. Thank God, because I was going to be an open net. And then me and Mark Savard went on 2-on-1, and I scored against Fleury then. And then the other one was against New York Islanders, just a dump in. Sean Thorne and me and Sabatka kind of just threw behind the net and threw a backhand up. So, but those goals, if I can relive them in my head in slow motion. So, but I'll take those 3 goals any day.
3's better than our combined none, Mike.
Yeah.
Right. That your time in the NHL, you get called up for 5 straight seasons, and then a 4-year break before your final call up for 1 game with Montreal. Mm-hmm. Those 4 seasons in between, did you ever think you were going to get another shot?
No, I knew I became a suspect instead of a prospect, if you want to call it that. But no, I think my time was done in the sense where, they gave me all the shots that I needed, and trying to crack the lineup and all that stuff. So I had a good my best shot in Chicago and my best one in Boston. And I had 3 points in 4 games, and then the All-Star break came around, and I had to play my ninth game in Toronto, scoring the shootouts against Toscala, and then they sent me down. And then if I had to play my 10th game, I had to get put on waivers to get back to if I got sent back down. And I was on the flyer. Me, Marshawn, Tuca, Boychuk, and Providence, we were tearing it up. So it was just, politics get involved, and it is what it is, draft picks, and that's the nature of the business, right? And then my last in Montreal, I'd love to play one game.
Sorry, Marty, you just cut out there. Can you start up again about the last call up?
Oh, I caught it. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good. You're back now. Yeah. Just start off where you said my last call up there.
Oh, the last call up. Yeah. I was, it was in Boston, and then we played, it was in Providence. It was me, Marshawn, Boychuk, Tuca. We had a good team, and I was in Toronto, played against scoring shootouts, and then it was it was the All-Star break, so I got sent down, and then they didn't want me to play my 10th game, so they didn't want to lose me, which as far as an organization, I get it, but it's kind of frustrating back then. So and then I became this all-star AHL player, and then the very last call up was I was in Hamilton. Told my agent I wanted to play one game for the Montreal Canadiens if he could get me there, and within a few minutes I got a contract with the Hamilton Bulldogs. And then I got the captain there, and then, kind of played my ass off all year just to get that one game. And I finally they gave me one game at the Bell Center with the Montreal Canadiens. So that was the cream of the crop for me. Playing my first NHL game or scoring my first NHL goal, but playing at the Bell Center, because I grew up watching the Montreal Canadiens. My parents are big Habs fan. Basically, my whole hometown was there from east of Ottawa. And then I knew I could, shut it down and make a career out in Europe and not having to, second guess myself if I can play up in the NHL or not.
That's fantastic. And when you cap it, even like all that significance, obviously with Montreal, but your 3 teams, Montreal, Boston, Chicago, not a bad trio of NHL teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was, and then I had 3 games in Ottawa, which was just kind of short stint, but it's pretty cool to have played 3 of the 6 original 6 teams. So that's definitely good memories for sure.
So what was it? Take us through that day, Marty, because you spent so long in the American League and you talked to your agent about wanting to play in Montreal. And I'm sure in the back of your mind, or maybe even the front of your mind, you thought, this is my last go in the National League. What was it like that game?
Yeah, that game was, I think it was more, it wasn't so much, it's going to be my last NHL game. It was just like, I get to play in Montreal and through my family, my parents. It was kind of like a thank you to them, and have them have great memories with their friends too, and everybody's watching on TV. So that game flew right by. It felt like it lasted 5 seconds. Looking back, it was my last chance. But then again, I kind of made it into positive, and that's the way I look at it from now. Since then. So,
what was Europe like? You obviously had made the decision that's where you're gonna go and spend the rest of your time. What was the transition like going to another entire continent?
Yeah, I've been there a couple times before. In 2007 after Chicago, in 2010 before I came back to Rockford in 2012. So I love Europe. Less games, and I got to play in Russia for 5 years, or 4 years, and then Slovakia, kind of like the UK, Finland here and there, China. So I took that as life experiences and get to travel and experience the world while playing hockey, while making good money. So it was just more of a life experience and trying to make some new friends and make some new teammates, some new memories. And but definitely, sometimes having a 10, 12, 14-hour time difference is definitely hard to keep in touch with friends back home. But again, I got to play in 12 different countries. I guess you can say 10 different countries if you take out Canada and US in 17 years. So definitely add up my my point form on that point form list of life experiences for sure.
Yeah, your hockey DB page looks like a Walgreens receipt, and that's a compliment, not a chirp. Like 20 years, man. What's the most, pardon my language, the messed up story from your time in the KHL?
I think it's just overall, because when I went there, it's the old Russian KHL, the Russian Super League. So just the planes, like guys can smoke on the planes. Nobody's sitting down, taking off, landing. There's no rules, basically. You don't have curfew like Jeff Jackson would put curfew. So, there's definitely a lot of guys that take some vitamins that you have no idea what they're taking, Russian gas, all that stuff. But, you stay in your lane, and it is just like anywhere else. And, but just, I loved it. You don't realize how big Russia is until you travel 12 hours with a 6-hour time difference just to play a game. That's pretty far. So, definitely some eye openers, just some bad hockey rinks there, some bad airports with no toilets, just a hole in the ground. And, it's a culture shock. But then again, you have some NHL rinks, you have some rinks there that are nicer than NHL rinks here. So you kind of have the best of both worlds,
Were you paid on time?
A lot of times, no, but you always got your money at some point. Yeah. That's a stressful part too. It's just sometimes you just want your money, but it's going to come. It's going to come. Yeah. I know it's going to come.
It just might be in a plastic bag.
Yeah. Or a brown bag. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'll happen. Yeah.
You spent so much time over there and traveled to so many countries. Did you pick up any other languages along the way?
I can get around, colors, count, hockey positions, order food in Russian. I can read Russian, but I can't really carry a conversation. But if it's really broken into, and I can definitely understand, especially being at the rink, because our coaches would be Russian, right? So it's always the same lingo: forward, D, skate fast, shoot. The fuck are you doing? So
hear that one a lot.
You kind of pick. Yeah, exactly. You pick up on that, and then kind of get used to it. But I definitely lost a little bit. But they like that you kind of learn a little bit their own language. So
I know you were only up with Ottawa for 3 games, you said.
Yeah.
But one of the players on that team was Alex Kovalev. There are stories, I think, galore of his talent and just the things he used to do. Did you have any time with Alex at all, or any stories about a guy like Kovalev?
Yeah, well, Kobe sat beside me in the locker room in Ottawa when I got called up. And then Kobe was my assistant coach for Kunlun in China when I was in the KHL there. Yeah, so we played 3-on-3 many times after practice, and this guy's still a kid, 15-year-old kid that wants to play in the NHL, but he's the type of guy that, he's got videos on YouTube that he's a left shot, right? So his top hand is right, and he would just stick handle puck and then put on his backhand, and he would shoot it, and it would go bar down. I've seen it many, many, many times. It's not made up. It's just no filters on that. It's actually true. I've seen the guy on his knees, center ice, just stick handling the puck and call it that it's going to go up in the air and on top of the net, not in the net, but on top of the net, and stay up top. Yeah, I've seen it with my own hands, my own eyes, and he can still do that stuff. I follow him still on Instagram, and the stuff he does is just, it's unbelievable. So you watch all his highlights, and he's just so skilled. He's so big. He's got some mitts on, and he's just is a great guy. I for some people say, oh, Russians this, Russian that, but I get along with all the Russians. They're awesome, I think. Well, he was fine as far as a head coach, but as an assistant coach. But the only flaw about him is sometimes he doesn't realize that we're not all Alexei Kovalev. We can't all make plays like that. So you kind of have to be like Kobe. I can't make that pass. I'm not you. So but no, he was good.
As you got towards the end, Marty, and you're going to retire, did you know ahead of time, like, was there even in your own mind like a little bit of a victory lap for you, or a farewell tour?
COVID hit, our season ended abruptly 2 years ago, 2.5 years, no, a year and a half ago. So I didn't really have that my last game, my last farewell tour, but it was time mentally and physically. I was just exhausted. Living out of hotels for 17 years, traveling the world, takes a toll on your body. And, my family was here. My parents are getting older, and even though they were getting used to it, it's kind of nice to being back here and kind of spending time with them. But it was time. I almost retired 3 years ago, and I kind of wanted to push them 40 years old. And last year, I'm like, there's not a chance I'm making it to 40 on the ice. Not a chance. So I'll take my 1,041, regular season games played, pro, and then and pack it in.
I know, speaking of that, like, because Father Time, I know, I get it, it marches on, but you did some training with some of the Ottawa 67s. I think Jack Quinn was one of them. But
Yep.
what are they doing today that you were never even thinking about when you were in junior?
These guys
Everything.
are
Yeah.
everything. And even like Wendell Clark's son, he used to come down too, and they'd be like in between just north of Vaughan, the Muskokas, and they come down. I think they have every tool in the book, every tool in the shed that you want. They're just specimen. They work hard, and obviously they were doing the same training as me and Claude Giroux and Claude those guys in Ottawa. But just their philosophies, like I said, they have the nutrition down path. Their bodies are bigger. They're just faster, stronger. They have everything. So you ask, and their work ethic is there. So once you get that all mixed up, mix a first rounder in the NHL, and Jack's probably going to play the NHL full time next year. So, but these guys are specimens now. So that's kind of why too, for me, when I was 37, I was like, Jesus, I can't keep all of these guys. These guys they're killing me right now. So, and I was in Europe too, so I can just imagine these days here.
I know you're good buddies with Claude Giroux. You think he's getting traded? Where's he going?
I'm not sure. I haven't talked to him about that, but I would think he's getting traded. Yeah, it only makes sense as far as the business side of. It sucks for him because his 1,000 game for Philly is coming up like March 17th or some 14th, but I think business side is going to take over. I think he's getting traded for sure. I'd say maybe Colorado. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
I was just looking for a little insider information on our OHL stories here,
that's just completely my guess. I haven't talked to him, and I'm sure if I asked, he wouldn't even tell me either. So
another name that you brought up that's in the National League is Brad Marshawn. What was he like back when you were playing with him?
He was the same. He was a little cocky Brad, doing his thing, but he's a great guy. And he works hard, and he's very skilled, and he's had success. His success, there's a reason why he's had success. But he's the type of guy that if he changes his mojo, his vibe, he's not going to be the same type of player. But he's very respectful. Now he's a family man. But back then I had the first year pro Marshy, so we kind of had to get him to settle down a little bit. But I got along great. He's helped me obviously in my year in Providence get the call-ups in Boston. So I can't thank him enough. And it's fun to watch him on TV.
It's funny how in this game we measure success and maybe measure it differently. Obviously, every player from the first time you put on skates is thinking about the National Hockey League. But I don't think there's any disputing, Marty, that you've had tremendous success. 17 years of pro hockey, no matter where you played it, made some money, made a living playing the game. 12 countries, we've gone through all of that. What was the key to it for you? What was the key to Marty St. Pierre's success?
I think it was just blocking off all the negatives, the media. You're too small, you can't, not fast enough, and trying to be worry of things that you can control and not try to overthink yourself. But I think for me it was a consistency of your work ethic and just battling it out and think things are trust the process and things are going to fall into place when they do. And sometimes it may take longer, you might only get a few games, but just keep working hard. And then it's funny because the hockey world's a small world, and I can't even tell you how many times that during my 14th or 15th year in Europe, it'd be like, oh, I played with you, or I played with you, I don't know, in Binghamton, and now I'm a head coach, and you're like, oh shit, okay, good thing we were on good terms because I wouldn't be having success here. It's just, you never burn bridges. I think you just always stay focused and be a good guy, good teammate, and just work your ass off. I think that's what I try to do my best, and that is the reason why I lasted for 17 years. Yeah.
What was your favorite year?
I'm not sure. I mean, probably my first year was just everything was new, just traveling, getting paid, getting free equipment, getting experience to pro life. But probably the first year because I got called up. But again, every year is different because there's a lot of ups and downs and different experiences and different guys. So I can't really pinpoint exactly which year.
What's next?
I'm doing firefighting right now. So I have a couple interviews this week. We're gonna transition into firefighting and try to save some buildings and save some lives. But it's kind of, there's a lot of hockey players that get into firefighting because it's as close as the team aspect, the communication, the band of brothers kind of thing. But obviously you got to learn how to be a firefighter too. But that's up for me. So I don't know if I'm going to be around Toronto or Guelph or London or God knows where. But right now, just going to do that and see where it leads to. Just watch some hockey games on TV, and that's about it.
I've seen the guys that have done that join a firefighting crew for those reasons that you just mentioned. What I can't get out of my head though, Marty, is if the building's on fire, you have to go into it. Like that's part of the job.
You guys are going out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can't get over I can't get over after 4 years of junior and 17 years of pro. He still wants to have an occupation where you have to be in shape.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Don't you just want to have a pizza and calm down?
A little different shape. Yeah, a little different shape. But that's good, guys. Yeah.
Marty, I just want to go back. Your first year of pro, which you just talked about. I took a look, and I love Greenville's name in the East Coast. The Growl with 3 R's.
Yeah. Make sure you get
3 R's.
Roll the R, yeah.
But that Edmonton Roadrunners team in the American League, I was looking at it, and there was a lot of young guys on that club. Was that a really fun year for you?
Yeah, that was fun and then Jarrett Stoll got sent down. Rafi Torres got sent down. We had a lot of young guys, a lot of draft picks from the Edmonton Oilers that were playing on that team. So that was definitely a fun year, but that was my first year pro, right? So that was kind of playing Edmonton, and they put the team at Rexall Place in Edmonton. So we're playing in the NHL rink as an AHL team, excuse me. But then you get sent down to Greenville, South Carolina, and then you get to play in 75-degree weather. So it's kind of like bittersweet on both, getting sent down the East Coast. But that was definitely a fun year for sure, because Edmonton's a pretty big hockey town. So we were getting at least 15,000 fans a game. So that was pretty cool to coming out of Guelph and going to play there.
Wasn't Wardy the coach there?
Yeah,
Edmonton.
Wardy was the coach. Yeah. He's but we I think we lost like 18 in a row. We weren't meshing well as a team there. So
we know we've kept you, and it's normally about this time where Farzy makes a joke about me having one last question, which I normally do.
Yeah.
You mentioned Kovalev, you mentioned Crosby. You've been around the world playing this game. Who's the player that's the most talented that you've seen?
Talented, I'd probably be biased and say probably Claude Giroux, but I always compare him to like guys like Patrick Kane. I think they're both not similar players, but the way that they stick handle the puck, the way that they don't have long sticks, they're not the biggest guys, but just stuff that you see them do. And I've skated with Claude in the off season in Ottawa, and I've traded with Claude, and obviously with Kaner for 3 years. I've seen him training camp and practices and stuff he does in the locker room. It's just, it's crazy. I also saw Austin Matthews a few summers ago when I was in Scottsdale in Arizona, and you look at these guys and you're like, these guys can do stuff in practice and do it high speed in the NHL. And then you see those in highlights and you're like, I've seen that before in practice, and they can do like that. So I would probably say those 3 guys for sure. Just all around well-deserved the success they had, but just naturally gifted, but then their work ethic and grinding and just wanted to be better and better and better makes them all stars.
Sorry, Farzy, I have one more quick one, just real quick, and then I'm done. I promise I'll shut up. But Marty, your hockey DB page has you listed at 5'9". I don't know how tall you actually are, but I know for a fact that you 5'8" and a quarter. But I know for a fact your stick height is about Zdeno Chara height. When did that start?
Yeah, it was just in Guelph with Rusty, and we just had different sticks come in, and the lie was different. So I just put it longer. And next thing you know, it was 63 inches, which was crazy long. But then I had success in 2004 and just kept with it. And then when I turned pro, I had to cut it down quite a bit. And then when I got to Boston, it was 1.5 inches shorter than Zdeno Chara's. So that's how long it was. I still have my first NHL stick that I scored with at my parents' house, and not a chance I would ever get back to playing with that. But it was just a habit. Everything went well, and you just kind of stick to it, and then you kind of get zoned to put the blinders on and keep going. Doesn't matter what people are saying. So, but yeah, now I have a short stick to play men's hockey. So no more long stick.
I tell you what, I never want to find myself in a burning building, but if I do, I hope it's you and your crew coming to pull us out.
Hopefully.
Marty,
Awesome.
thanks for doing this. It's been a lot of fun.
You're welcome, boys. I'll see you later.